Hello, everyone. Happy Friday. I'm gonna hang out here for a second. I have to admit, it's kind of weird going live by myself, but we're gonna do this. And hopefully, you guys can hear me. I don't know if anyone's gonna tune in. And my little Bammer's here. So if you guys come on and you have any questions, definitely tune in and type them in the comments, and I'll see what I can answer. So today's episode of Brewed for Business, special edition, because I am celebrating my 8th year in business, which I just did a short video about that the other day. So I don't know if you saw that, but so exciting. And man, 8 years goes by really fast, really fast. So in all your fashion, um, cheers to an awesome episode. So it's funny, like what we do to ourselves, right? But I'm sitting here like in the coffee shop in a Starbucks in Fort Collins, Colorado, is where I am today. And I normally like going to like cool, eclectic like coffee shops when I meet with different guests. Um, but honestly, when I work like remote, when I need to get out of the house or get out of the hotel or wherever I'm staying or wherever I'm traveling, like I typically come to Starbucks because I love the fact that it's, good coffee, good reliable internet every time, no matter where I go. So like the consistency of it really appeals to me. So this is where I tend to work from. And like, I love coffee shop with a lot of space too. I don't want to be in someone else's business, especially because I'm on a lot of calls like during the day for my job. So I'm trying not to be too loud because it is a little awkward to be by myself, but here we are. I decided to do the episode today by myself just because I get a chance for you guys to get to know me too, and like why I even created this podcast and what the plans are for it and where it's been so far. So this is the 11th episode. I've been talking about doing it for probably about a year now, and I decided to officially launch it in January. Like I just have to just go for it and just do it, right? And it's been so funny and so much fun, and really, really great to meet like all the amazing business owners that I've met and the conversations that I've had. And the initial plan was to focus a conversation on marketing, right? And so that I can give some good feedback and talk about like what I know and what I do. But it's very quickly like just turned into like, how much I love just giving the platform for the person that's joining me on the podcast, for them to really just talk about who they are and like why they're amazing human beings and why you should do business with them. I work in marketing, right? And even I know that it's so difficult to get yourself out there and to get yourself to stand out amongst like everyone else, fighting for that same attention. And so if this platform helps them, you know, get a couple clients or new business from it, then so be it. If not, that it's great content. So we also are working on breaking down the podcast into clips so that then the guest then has content to promote on their own platforms as well, right? Because it's one of the biggest things to be successful on any of these platforms is you gotta post. You gotta be out there because you could have the best business or service in the world, but if no one knows about you, no one knows, what you do, how are you supposed to grow? You know, it's you have to talk about what you do for people to know what you do. So in my usual um, episodes, I go and I talk about like where the business owner is from. So I'm going to do a little bit of that for myself. So I'm originally from Canada. I was born in a little town outside Montreal called St. Luc, and we moved to Florida when I was 7. I didn't speak hardly any English. Went to all American school, and it was quite a culture shock. And I think it's part of why I've always been good at reading people, right? Like I came to a country not speaking the language, and having to learn really quickly, like how to read people in order to, make friends and, figure out exactly what was supposed to be done. So my name it's so Americanized now because I've been here again since I was 7. Julie, but my French in French it's pronounced Julie. So Julie Bergeron is my name, and I love hearing it, and I forget that sometimes. And so now you guys all know. So yeah, so I have been here, been in the United States since I was 7, and I worked really. One of my first jobs was Hollywood Video, which I've talked about before, and it also like led me to really get to know like people and start watching people, and like what kind of movies they watched and what kind of information they liked to partake in, and how welcoming or how open to conversation that they were, right? Um, and then one of my first like official sales jobs was for Bell South Mobility. I know, totally dating myself, but it really taught me like a great way to sell. Like it was the era where everyone was trying to get a cell phone, and it was a matter of like presenting each different phone and like what people were using it for and like different plans and stuff. But one of the things too that I've talked about is that when I worked in at Bell South Mobility, which then turned to like Singular Wireless and then eventually AT&T, um, is I was taking a class in college, speech class. So I had a chance to really test out my like sales pitches, right? Because it's like the teacher was saying basically like you can talk about whatever you want to, as long as you like your speech was within the parameters of like what he was asking you to talk about, right? And so I did. So I was able to get like instant feedback on how people like took the different information that I shared, right? And I learned to formulate my sales pitch so that it included a little bit of everything. I mean, I used to talk to people about the technology of cell phone towers and like how it all worked, right? And like the roaming back then. Again, it sounds so much further away than it really was. Um, First color screen phone came out, that Nokia. Oh my gosh, memories. But it was a great industry to really like get a chance to talk to people. And in that, I always have had a fascination for different languages, partly because I'm French, I speak French, and I learned English. And then in middle school and high school, I took Spanish classes because my mom ixnayed like the French class because she said it was be too easy of a class. So I had to transition into Spanish. But I've always had a fascination for languages, and I read Count of Monte Cristo in high school, right? And I totally fell in love with like the depth of his like revenge plot. If you've not read it, I'm not gonna spoil anything, but you should definitely read it. Um, and he like part of his revenge plot was that he's learned like all of the different languages from all of these different countries so that he can like infiltrate the countries and like build his reputation and all that stuff. Right? I always found that fascinating. I've not learned all of the languages, but one of the things that I started doing, especially in the cell phone world, is that whenever I met somebody that spoke a different language or I knew was from a different country, I would ask them how to say hello or how to say thank you. Thank you was a big one. And then we would like spend time just like, getting myself to like pronounce it correctly, whatever. And like the spark in their eyes of just my interest in like getting to know a little bit about themselves, like made such an impact, which I mean, it wasn't intentional. I literally just wanted to learn languages. And then if I could retain it long enough, then like I could, say thank you as they were like walking out the door, right, in their language, and like they would get such a kick out of it. And I made so many like connections that way. There was I continue that throughout my life. So anytime I meet somebody that speaks a different language, I always ask them how to say thank you. And one year I was in a conference up in Boston, and our bartender spoke Turkish, and I asked him how to say it, and oh my gosh, such a long phrase, which I'm going to see if I can not butcher it. But we spent like all night basically, like as he was like, helping other people, like he would pop in and like try to teach me how to pronounce a part of it. And then he would like go away and like come back. And then I would like try it out and he'd be like, yes or no. Right. And it was going on like all night till I finally like got it. And then like a year later, I went back to that same hotel for the same conference, right? They did an annual conference. And like I walked into that restaurant and he was still there and he totally remembered me. And it was such a cool connection, like just to be like, just because we spent a ridiculous night like trying to pronounce like one word, but like that connection with the person was really beautiful, and I've had a lot of really cool moments in my life where people have, you know, um, considered me like a safe space, and like perfect strangers tell me their life stories. I just genuinely love people. I love meeting people. I love getting to know them. I love being that safe space for people, right? And that's part of what I think I love so much about this podcast, because it allows me to really shine a light on the beautiful people that I meet and how you guys understand it from the perspective that I see it, right? By like kind of digging out some of those questions from them and things like that. But before I get too far, so thank you in Turkish is teşekkür ederim. Took me all night to remember that, guys. It was a lot. So fast forward. I have really enjoyed doing this, and I started my marketing business 8 years ago, and I'll tell you a little bit of a story about that. But part of why I wanted to also create the podcast is because I do travel and I do work remote, right? I work from my computer, so I have the ability to go wherever in the world that I want to. So far, it's just been the United States, hopefully international soon. But I've been watching for the last few years, and if you guys have watched any of my content, you know that I talk about him a lot. Tim Hayden created Hadley Watch a couple of years back, and I am not a watch person, but his content fell into my feed, and but we both have a high respect for Gary Vaynerchuk, which I was probably where like the algorithm connected us, and he basically took Gary V's like. Uh, advice of documenting everything like fully, and he decided to launch this watch brand from his kitchen, and he documented the whole process, like from product design to marketing to the ups and downs of business. But one of the best things that he's done for his business, which I think is absolutely genius, is he started doing like a scavenger hunt for his watches, right? So he would pop up in different cities and different towns and different states and different countries, and he would just go live on all of his platforms, and he would share like a couple clues as to where he was, and then people had to guess like where he was, and if they showed up and said his tagline, "I love your journey," then they would get a free watch, right? Beautiful. And again, not a watch person. Haven't worn a watch since the cell phone stole time. Um, but so it's been really beautiful to watch. Like I'll watch the comments like when he goes live, and like people from all over the world are like trying to help everyone else like figure out where it is, and it's just done so well for his brand and it's gone viral. And it just reminds me when I see that, like how much everyone loves games. Like we all have a game on our phone, at least one, right? I personally love arcades, of go-karts and all that kind of stuff. So Mario, oh my gosh, Mario back in the day, not even back in the day, because me and my buddy were playing that recently, for old time's sake. But we all love games, we all love fun. Like think of conferences. If you ever go to conferences and they're giving away those free t-shirts are not cute, and I don't know that anyone actually ever wears them, but people lose their minds like trying to win those free t-shirts, right? We all love that challenge, we all love that fun. And so in watching that, and then I was trying to incorporate into my business, like, okay, how do I make marketing fun, right? Because marketing is marketing. Like I can promote stuff out there, but like the intricacies of it, right? Like how do I make it exciting? And so I thought of doing, and I work a lot from coffee shops, right? So I was like, ooh, what if I go together, and like, I'll go live, and like if someone finds me at a local coffee shop, then I buy them a coffee or something, right? And my dear friend and my longest client, Maddie Cohen, I always like, we always like kind of spitball ideas back and forth. And she, made the point that like, would someone really go out of their way for a free coffee? I mean, they might, but probably not as likely as if it was something a little bit more substantial. So then I was like, okay, so what if if the person that finds me at a coffee shop, business owner finds me at a coffee shop, then we go live and we talk about their business and like what they do. And so that's how this podcast was developed. Now I figure, again, being in marketing, I know that I can't just launch this and expect people to have any idea who I am or what I do, or where to find me or if it'd be worth it. So we launched the podcast so that I could have a couple like schedules interviews so that people can get a feel of like what it would be like, right? So that hopefully this will grow to the point where it has enough of a following where I will be able to do some lives, like come find, like the Where's Waldo, or where Carmen San Diego is what I'm thinking. Like, where in the world is Carmen? Oh my gosh, I'm so dating myself in this whole podcast. Anyway, so yeah, so that's part of where, that's not part, that's why this podcast was created. And I will be launching eventually, not eventually, that sounds like so far away. Um, I'm going to be in Colorado at least through May. And so maybe like in June when I hit the road again, then I'll be launching the Come Find Me Now, or I might even launch the Come Find Me Now like while I'm here in Colorado, to see like who I can get on the podcast and, kind of showcase a little bit of the local business here, um, give them a chance to spotlight and get access to different audiences. So, but that is the plan. That's going to be coming up here, like I said, in the next month or so. So I'm very excited for that. And in the meantime, if you guys know anyone in the Colorado area Colorado area. Okay, Colorado's pretty big. So Fort Collins, Denver area. Uh, if you guys know anyone, any business owners that you feel would benefit from, a little spotlight on themselves and their business, definitely, connect them with me, put their names in the comments, and I can reach out to them and see what we do. And I mean, it would be beautiful if I could go, if I had enough, guests where I could go live every day. But I also have to maintain my business as well and keep my clients happy. So it can't all be podcast. Although some days the podcast is definitely a lot more fun. So I am rambling about the podcast. So this is why I was here. And my marketing business, which is beautiful. So 8 years ago, my I, I worked for a job that there was a lot of anxiety around. Let's say that stress, very high stressful job. And my son had come to me. So this is 2018, beginning of 2018. My son had approached me and told me that he was battling depression. And in kind of guiding him through that phase and trying to refocus on like what he was thinking and like where we were at, I realized that I couldn't help him be happy unless I was myself happy. And I hadn't really taken a moment to analyze like how I felt about my life and my job and where I was until I was working to help him. And in so doing, I realized like how stressful my job was and how like I would come home and just be like, upset all the time just because it was like the high stress. And so I started considering, number one, looking for a new job, right? And I actually went to a recruiter's office because I did work obviously full time and being a mom, and the job searching world is, it's brutal. So I thought if I could find a recruiter to help me find a new job, it'd be great. And as I was speaking to a recruiter, and they were asking me like, well, what is it that you want to do? And I just realized that I was like, I'm really good at people. I'm really good at a lot of things. Every job that I've ever had, like I figure out what needs to be done. If I don't know, I call someone. I've never been the type of person that's like, oh, that's not my job. Oh, I can't help you. I always find a way. And so, in speaking to the recruiter and like listing kind of all of the things that I want, they actually turned around and offered me a job as a recruiter, which I thought was kind of funny. But I met with a friend of mine, Jason, for lunch that day, and I was kind of like outlining for him, and I was like, there's like this looks like something of substance, right? Like these different skills that I have that they could apply to many other businesses. Now I don't know why. I don't remember the motivation why I believed that I could just start my own business. I do not come from a family of entrepreneurs. It is not a thing. Our family is very, work a job, work a steady job, and build your career and all of the things, kind of as is like the world norm, or at least expected norm. And so I don't know exactly what caused me to think that I could create a business. But my buddy Jason, when I was talking to him about all of the possibilities, he basically told me like to write it down. He's like, just write it down, and then we can like take a look at it, right? Because I was just kind of like spitballing ideas. And so I got this like massive whiteboard in my kitchen, which I'll have to post a picture of that after the podcast. But I posted this like massive whiteboard. Now at the time, in the job that I was working at before, I worked in the equestrian industry, and I had started like a text shop campaign, right? Where people would text me when they needed something. I would like go through the warehouse and find the picture and be like, "Hey, is this one it? Is this what you want?" And then they would be like, "Yes." And then we would literally like do an entire like sales exchange through text messages. And I just thought like, how convenient is that? And I know many people that don't love to shop. And so this is before the DoorDashes and the Ubers and the, all of the delivery services and stuff that could actually do that for you. Um, Again, sounds so old, so long ago. Um, anyway, so I had this program that I had started, and I was like, how would this work, like on a grand scale? Like, what if somebody like needed a dress for that evening, and they're at work and they don't have time to shop, right? Not that I personally love shopping that much, but I am good at figuring out what people need, right? And so I was like, okay, so I can do like a shopping assistant. That would be like my go-to. Like I could shop for people, groceries or what. And then I was like, well, while I'm shopping for people, then they're going to start to trust me, right? And then they're going to lead into having me maybe do some errands for them, pick up dry cleaning, pick up whatever, right? And then from there, then they would like maybe allow me into their business and like help me, like allow me to help them out in whatever capacity in business. Now I come from a sales background, right? I mentioned my first job was called video. It was heavy like customer service and like sales of like the multiple video packages and the snacks and all that stuff. And then the cell phone industry, I did that for many years. And then to the equestrian industry. So all of my jobs have always been sales related. Again, great at people. It just kind of like naturally flows, right? So and when I decided to go into the freelance work, is what I was saying, freelance work, and like the business side of it, I was like, well, I'm a great salesperson. I could be like a salesperson for the day. You tell me what your product is, and if I agree and align with it, like I can pretty much sell it like right there on the spot, right? I don't need like months of training. I can really translate that information very quickly to like the different people. I've done again my sales background has been a lot of person to person sales, right? Like in person. So I can like read emotions. I can read people. I can see what, how they receive that information and how they don't. So when I launched this business, it was to do that. So shopping assistant first, and then potentially errands, and then potentially business assistant. So I decided like, oh, okay, I'm gonna um, go networking and see like if I can meet people locally and like start kind of building up my network. And then as it builds and then like it becomes a great business, then I'm gonna go ahead and leave my job amicably and just be like, hey, I'm doing my own thing and it's growing. Well, there was a situation that happened at work which caused me to leave a little earlier than expected. I just decided that life was too short and I couldn't handle the stress anymore. And I think it's because I had this idea of the business that in my back pocket that I thought, it would be safe. So I gave myself like 2 months to really hit the ground running and see if I can get any clients and kind of like get this business on the road. 2 weeks after I decided to focus on launching my business, I fell down some concrete steps like outside of a building and like really injured my spine. And interestingly enough, it kind of forced me to make the business work, right? I couldn't stand for a very long period of time. I couldn't sit for a very long period of time. I could barely lift anything. I was in pain constantly. And so working, a 9 to 5 or anything like that, or a sales job like on my feet, like just wasn't an option. So it forced me to like, okay, listen, you have to hustle. You've got to find clients. So the last week of my 2 month um, uh, limit that I gave myself, right? I met my first two clients. One was a moving company, Bernardo, with it used to be called Drop a Truck. Now he's into other business ventures, and Graciela Valdez, who was a boudoir photographer. And they were both people that I met at networking events. And they both loved the idea that I could be like this freelance assistant and just basically help them with different parts of their business. So funny enough, even though my original business idea was to do the shopping, remember, the errands and then the business, everyone that I met like immediately needed like the business support, which I loved, which was perfect, better than I could have imagined. So I started assisting Graciela. We did some content work, some social media work, and then I would help her in like different photography shoots or like at events. And Renardo, him and I would do like door to door marketing. We would go through, he had a genius idea of making connections with the local assisted living facilities to be like their go-to moving company. And so we would literally go around town all over like Palm Beach County, and we would drive like door to door and like walk in and like, have a conversation with the different like directors at those facilities so that then we can like build our relationships so they can call on us when needed. And both of those people I still like love with all my heart. They gave me a shot in the very beginning, and it was beautiful. And they're amazing people. Graciela now is in the Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina area. I think she's in Georgia near like LJ. Anyway, but so she still does boudoir photography, and she's phenomenal. Like, what about talk about a empowering session? Like just being in a few of her sessions and like listening to how she really like lifts the person up that's in that shoot. She does branding work as well. She's fabulous. She's an amazing human being. And eventually I'll make it out there to interview her on this podcast. So you guys will get to meet her yourself. And Renardo now, I believe, is in Texas area, and he's launched a cleaning company, and believe he just launched a branch of it in Florida as well. But both of these people, like I cherish, and they're the reason why I even got to start. And then my next client, it's funny. So my father and I, probably about like 10 years ago, so 2 years before I went into my business, we were looking into becoming in multifamily investors. My dad always wanted to own apartment buildings, and so we decided as a family to go and like go through the education program so that we can do to invest. So my job, excuse me, in the business was business development, right? To make the connections, again, people, to make the connections with the brokers, with the investors, with all of the people that we would need in order to make the deals work. So I would go to all of the networking events for this education group that we were part of in multifamily. And, my job was to just kind of like build those relationships. And my dad was the underwriter, finance, like he's the engineer. So like looking at all of the analytics and all that stuff for like the properties to make sure that they were like valid deals. Like that was his job. So in that world, I had made connections with a lot of investors that were local to our area, right? Because we were looking to invest in South Florida as well. And so I met Nitsan Mosry, who is an investor in the Boca area. And the last networking event that I went to for the multifamily education, him and I had connected, and I had shared with him that I had just launched this business, and I was a freelance assistant. Now this is before like VAs, virtual assistants were a thing. The amount of times that I had to like break down like what a freelance assistant was to people was funny, and challenging, and like to find different ways to describe it to different people and like what it is that I could actually help them with. Because I mean, literally anything. I mean, I help people from yeah from organizing emails to offices to going door to door marketing, doing social media content, building websites, and all that stuff is what kind of like how it grew. But Nitsan is one of the ones that I had the most experience with marketing, so he brought me on as his assistant, and he was in the process of launching like his own coaching program. So under his guidance, like we developed like a coaching program. We worked on websites. Like I learned everything that I could about social media to really help him like grow his brand on social media. He even had a podcast at the time, so I would help like coordinate guests and figure this out. Like, had I ever done any of this before? No. But he's amazing, and he totally, like, gave me a shot to, like, figure it all out, right, and to really learn to do what I was doing. And then while I was working with him, I worked with him for a couple of years, and I would, pick up other oddball jobs and stuff, like, on the side. But very quickly, like, the things that I did with him were the things that I enjoyed the most, right? So coming from my sales background, going into marketing is kinda like the perfect segue, because in my mind, marketing is like digital sales, right? What I would do or say to you if you were in front of me and I was selling you a product or service is how we approach marketing and presenting that information so it's like digitally sold to you, so that in an ideal world you're convinced before you and I even have a conversation, based off of what you see, based off of the information that you collect, or whatever it is that we're teaching. So, but with Neatson, it was like such a variety of different things that I did. Like, again, coordinating guests for a show and editing content and working on education material and putting together, workbooks. And we did an event, our first event, like in, I think it was like May of my first year in business, or maybe the second year in business. I don't remember the exact year, but like I put together like a conference and like figured out like all the organization parts of that. And so it really gave me an opportunity to kind of like dabble and test out all kinds of things, even website work. So funny story about that. So need someone wanted a new website. And so we went to, back like 8 years ago, that Fiverr and the Upwork and stuff were like really like getting more and more popular. So we had found someone on Fiverr to create the website. Sometimes it's a hit and miss on those platforms. And so we got like kind of partial of a website created and communication issues. So we decided to like part ways with that particular designer, and we had like half a website. When I was doing local networking, I met a guy named Leonard, who is an awesome human being, and he offered to help us complete the website. And we were going back and forth in the website. And so in the middle of doing the website, Leonard, you know, him and I like became close and shared a lot about like what I was doing and what he was doing. And he offered to teach me like what he was doing in order to do the edits. He's like, hey, if you're to make changes or if you whatever, like I'll show you how to make the edits. And I learned the theme was like Divi theme, which is like very much of a click and drag kind of editor on websites. And so he taught me how to do that, and I was like, oh, that's it? Like, I can do that. And then I started advertising that I could do like website editing. Well, I learned very quickly that I don't think I've ever seen a Divi theme like ever since that moment. There's a million other templates, and not all templates and themes are created equal. And so I had to like reach out to my network to like really help me like clean up some of these websites. So that's part of why we got into the website work, because I realized like how many times like business owners have a website, like an older website that they've just kind of lost and forgotten, and it's there and they don't do anything with it. They've not updated it, anything like that. Or two, that like different developers and designers have different ways of doing things, right? And sometimes, like, you could create a website and it's great, and then you hire someone to come in and edit it. And they have a certain way of editing, and then the next person has a different way of editing. So you've got like plugins that are added unnecessarily on your website, or you have like themes that are page builders that are added on top of other page builders, and it ends up being a hot mess on your website, right? So we started like coaching people basically like how to structure a website, and I found EJ with Jan Host down in Fort Lauderdale area, who has become like one of my closest friends. And he's given me like so much. He was on my podcast a couple episodes ago. You guys could check it out. And he, kind of really like taught me like how the websites like should be built. And, you don't need all of the plugins, every single plugin for every little element. You don't need unnecessary pages. Like, these are all things that hurt your website and that make it possibly more susceptible to hacking, right? Like, the more open things, the more plugins, the more software misalignments that you have, all the things. I'm not going to go into too much more detail than that because EJ, the expert, talks about it a couple episodes ago. But so got really heavy into website work. And then I also learned very quickly that most people, most designers don't write websites. Now, I never considered myself a phenomenal writer. But I learned very quickly when I went into business myself that even though I didn't see myself as a great writer, better than most. And so I started writing websites for people. Part of like my sales background and working so close with other people and just genuinely like loving and connecting with people, I have a way of translating information in the way that the person needs to hear it. Right? I've always done that. I've done like training manuals at every job that I've ever had because someone didn't understand like the way it was written, and I figured out like a better, concise way to like put it together. So I've always been able to translate that. And so now it's just like on a broader scale where it's like, okay, so now I know what you do, and I know like how your audience needs to receive that, like what part of it, that what you do is like what your audience needs. And so I've been able to like really put together these websites, write the websites from scratch. We do all of the copywriting so that we can represent your business as best as possible. My last note on websites, I will say, is there was a trend a couple years ago of like less is more, right? Everybody wants like short, catchy phrases and just very little text. I'm totally opposite of that. And if you work with me, or if you know anyone that's worked with me, or if you've seen my own website, which is scrolling here across the bottom, um, you need information on your website. Now, there's ways to break up the text so it doesn't look so text heavy, but you need it for multiple different reasons, right? Like, number one, AEO right now and SEO, right? So the way that AI searches your information, they're looking for like actual depth of knowledge and information. So you need to have information on like words on your website describing what you do, so that if someone is searching for your services through an AI, the AI models actually like read your website. The other part of that is you want your website to, again, be your sales pitch. I should be able to come to your website and see however much information that I need to see in order to be convinced whether I want to do business with you or not. If it's just like three sentences here or two sentences here or a couple words here or a bunch of pictures, like, I don't know. It doesn't tell me anything, right? It might be very pretty and it might be very like short to skim, but I need the like depth of information. I've always been that way, and I feel like a lot of clients are. And it's better to have more information, and the person doesn't need it, and they can just skim through whatever they want to skim through. Or for the people that do want to go more in depth and really like make sure that they're making a solid decision, like you gotta have that information. So yes, we've done a lot of website work. And then the website work kind of, um, you know, span into SEO work as well, right? So you have a great website, but it's like a bill. It's like if you put a billboard in the middle of a desert, like you can have a great website, but again, if you're not driving traffic to it, if you don't have a plan to drive traffic to it, it's not automatically going to get traffic to it. The SEO works like helps optimize the pages, and then it helps kind of like push your website on top of like all the search channels and like getting in front of people's faces, right? So we started doing like SEO work as well. And then on top of that, then it kind of like led into Google Ads. So in Google Ads, like again, you got to get yourself out there. Like the more aggressive that you want to be, the faster results you want to get, the more money you have to put into it, which is where like the Google Ads runs. But our main bread and butter and what we love more than anything else is doing the social media content. So that's kind of like where I got started in the marketing world, like I said, with Meet Sans content and, working on different strategies and, just being consistent and showing up and sharing like what it is that they do and information. A lot of people that don't use a marketing agency or business owners, right? Like you're great at what you do. You're great at selling, you're great at not selling, you're great at servicing, whatever that task is that you do, you're great at that. But it doesn't necessarily mean that you're great at promoting it, right? It's not usually like a skill that you have on both sides. Usually people are like either very creative or they're very, specific to what it is that they're doing. So for the for social media, it's just about kind of like getting yourself out there, but being consistent, right? Even I have worked on that. If you look at my content on my pages, like before a year ago, there was very little content, and there'd be like a post here and there, sometimes like spurts, right? Where we like, okay, we go through like a phase of like, okay, we're going to be consistent, and then we get busy, client projects take precedence, and then like things kind of fall off. for the past year, I've been very consistent and, putting up content constantly, and it works, right? You guys are all seeing my face now. And, all the content and stuff that I put out there, and most of it is educational, right? I want you guys to know like all of the information that I know. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who you hire. If you're able to do it yourself, I don't think anyone can beat you that. If you do it the right way and you follow like the right steps, you can outperform any company, any agency that you bring on. But it's a full-time job, right? Job security for me. So, you got to make sure that you stay consistent. So I hear a lot from people, and I didn't think I was going to be able to talk for an hour, but apparently I can. Um, so I hear a lot from people that, they spend a lot of money with different marketing agencies and that they don't get the results that they want. Now, there's multiple sides to that, right? There are a lot of agencies out there that just promote and they work on, maybe like views and things like that, right? I know in the beginning, I charged very low for the services that I offered because I wanted to be accessible to all of the business owners that I possibly could, right? I mean, I was a startup, so, definitely had a heart for different startups and people like that. And, but the lower price point meant that I could do less, right? So it was just about like more like brand awareness campaigns that we were doing. And I found myself like, gosh, for years advising, the clients that I worked with, be like, hey, I'm working on getting your attention, right? And getting the credibility built out and bringing people like to pay attention to your account and your pages and whatever it is that you're offering and sourcing. But your job is to engage, to reply to those comments and to like really nurture those leads so that way then you can convert them, right? Did that happen? No, it didn't. And it was very frustrating because I've had the amount of people that I've had over the years that are like, oh, let me see, some of the past accounts that you've done. Well, it's limited because like the next phase wasn't there. And again, I wasn't charging enough to be able to do it all ourselves, right? It was more like hourly cost is what we were doing. So, but watching the results of that, I recognized that like just posting is not enough. Like we've been our own case study, right? Because we've done it for all the clients. Just posting consistently is not enough, no matter how great the content is. And we created some pretty great content. So it's like the trifecta. And if you've watched any of my content, you know that I talk about that a lot. Like you have to be consistent. It has to be relevant to what your audience is doing. It has to be engaging, right? They have to have a reason to like or comment or watch it. But also you have to engage. Like all of the platforms, the algorithms, right? You hear that term a lot. All of the platforms' job is basically to keep you on there happy as a user, right? Google and all the social medias and everything in between. The longer you're on their platform, the more their ad spend gets distributed. So the more views that they get, the more they can get from advertisers, right? And the only way that they can keep that is by keeping you happy. So if you're searching for, I don't know, best local coffee shop near me, well, like if I find that on Google, then I'm going to stay on Google, right? But if I wasn't finding it, then I would go off to a different platform. So the social media platforms work the same. Like you want to make sure that you're relevant and like the information that you're seeing is engaging so that people do keep coming back and the platforms then show it. So if you are consistent, if your content is good, the platforms automatically will promote and broadcast your content out to a bigger audience because if they find it engaging, if someone comments, that's gold. And then they broadcast it out to more people. So but you have to show up. You have to be consistent. And then that third piece is engaging. So the platforms, as much as your content might be great, they don't want you to just post and disappear. Post and ghost is what we're going to call it. We're not going to post and ghost. The platforms want you to show up and engage and kind of give back to the platform, right? And if you ever watch your analytics in your account, and if you're not, you should be. But if you pay attention to your analytics of like whatever your views are now, if you do nothing else but start engaging more, liking and commenting on other people's posts, it's going to do phenomenal for your numbers. I'm telling you. Like we've done campaigns where we've got a client just just a few months ago that had very little content posting, right? But very, very large network. And just by us posting consistently and engaging, so like we take over accounts, we act as them, and we do all the liking and the commenting and all that stuff, right? And so just us doing that in a month period of time, there was like a 64,000% increase in impressions, which means the amount of time that the content is like shows up on a feed, that can be seen. 64,000% increase in 1 month. And again, what we did was nothing magical. It was consistent posting, once a day, or once, I'm sorry, this one is even 3 times a week. 3 times a week. And it was liking and commenting on posts of the connections that were already connected to, and obviously like replying to any comments that were coming in. And that's as quick as it works, right? Because no matter what you're selling, no matter what you're doing, no matter what you're promoting, if you don't have attention, then like no one's seeing it. So your very first step is you've got to get the attention. And getting any attention is by being consistent and by engaging and by doing all of the things. Plus, if you consider, I talk about this a lot, but human reciprocity, right? I use this example. If I am walking out of a building and a person in front of me holds the door open for me and then takes a few steps and drops something, I'm already kind of connected with that person and I'm gonna be like, oh my gosh, you dropped something, right? If the person in front of me slams the door in my face and then they walk away and they drop something, depending on my mood that day, I may or may not let them know, right? Or depending on how hard they slam the door in my face, right? So human reciprocity. If I like and comment on your post, if I support what you're doing, you're more likely to support what I'm doing, right? Because no one wants just people that just want to like how appealing is it if someone gets up there and it's like, buy from me, buy from me, buy from me, buy from me, right? Like no one wants that. No one wants that. It's a give and take kind of world, right? So the more that you help other people, then the more that you're gonna get help. Karma's real, and it definitely helps like in business purposes, right? So for example, like all of the content that I do, every once in a while, I'll throw in like a call to action, like, hey, if you need help, give me a call. But the that was a weird word. The majority of the content that I create is educational. I'm like teaching you guys what I have learned, what I have done, what I know works, what I know doesn't work, right? And sometimes like in real time, like as things happen. Personally, I just love teaching. So we are actually, special announcement on this special episode. We are actually working on launching a consulting branch of the business. Haven't decided yet if we're going to do like fractional CMO versus actual like just marketing consulting, but we're in the process of kind of putting that together. Even like developed our own like framework around like the steps that we do in order to really launch our clients' campaigns and like the strategy behind it. So I'm really looking forward to that. So I love also speaking on stage. So if you guys have an event coming up and you want to hear some marketing perspective or some sales perspective or both, definitely hit me up because I would love to do that. And it gives me an opportunity to travel. So it could be anywhere. International, you would be my best friend. No, I'm just kidding. But no, like I love that stuff. So if you guys have any opportunities, definitely let me know. But so the content is like just educational. It's just like if you were to watch every one of my videos, like you know exactly what I do, you know exactly how to do it yourself, right? Which I know is crazy because it's taking away the clientele that I make my money from. But it's it's really all about just helping as many people as I can. I think when I first started in business too is when like Grant Cardone came out with his 10x, like 10x your business. You're gonna help. What was it like 10,000 people, and the people that you help will then the idea was like that reciprocation then will like also like help you, but you just helping other people. But I really like that philosophy. I like helping as many people as I can, and in training, right? Like if I teach you the things to do to grow and you end up becoming so big that you can no longer do it yourself, well, guess what? Then you can come back and, have me and my team like handle that for you. But at the end of the day, like I just want businesses to grow. If I could do this all for free, I would. But the bills got to get paid somehow. The gas to drive across country is not cheap, especially now. So we do need to, work on that. The newest thing that I've been doing now, in the last probably like 2 years now, is since doing all of the social media content and always advising people like how to nurture the leads, and really trying to work on ways to incorporate like my sales background more up front and center into my marketing business. I started doing outreach campaigns, and the outreach campaigns are like where the magic happens. So email marketing is um, it's not my favorite thing. Again, if you watch my content, you already know some of my opinions. But so I've held enough business owners' phones back to meet on. Back in the day, I would hold his phone and like record him like while we were doing like meetups, or he was speaking at a different conference and stuff. And the amount of emails that I would see on his phone like unread, like 50,000 plus. I mean, the amount of people that don't read their emails is crazy. I just did a conference in Tampa before coming out to Colorado, and I actually like used that as part of like my speech. And I asked people to raise their hands in the room to see like how many unread emails they had. And I started with like, oh, if you have more than 1,000, raise your hand. And I had to jump really quick because there was like way too many people that had 1,000 unread emails. But the winner was 160,000 unread emails. Now, if you are trying to sell to him in an email format, do you think he is going to see your email? No, no way. There's no way. That many emails, like he's filtering through for exactly like what it is that he knows he's expecting and like what he's going through, or he'll see it 6 months down the line, right? It's ridiculous like how saturated like the email marketing world is like from everything. Now, I believe in the email marketing for like a product. That's great, especially if you have like a shopping cart on your website like connected to like the follow-up campaign. Fantastic. Email marketing for like once you have like if you have a webinar to promote a service, and then you have like a program that you're launching outside of that, like to nurture those leads, like absolutely. But to try to do the whole process, don't waste your time. Don't waste your time. So where we've been doing outreach is through LinkedIn. LinkedIn is the one platform that I love the most because it's intentional audience, right? If I post on Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube or TikTok, I'm competing against all of the content creators, the comedy, the voiceovers, the political videos, all that stuff. Again, if you watch my content, this is not the first time you've heard me say that, but that's what you're doing. You're competing against all of this entertainment content, right? Versus on LinkedIn, people are on LinkedIn there to do business, to make connections, and to network with people that they need in order to grow their businesses. It's really like an underrated platform. I don't think enough people are using it. I think a lot of people still think it's like meant for the job world. Um, and it still does, right? It works great if you're looking for a new position, but the business side of LinkedIn is fantastic. We actually learned this doing some campaigns for real estate investors where we were helping them raise capital through LinkedIn connections. And it was phenomenal. I mean, from just building up credibility or like taking an account from scratch and doing like an aggressive push for outreach for a particular like deal that was happening. I mean, one client we got like two, and within 2 months, she had like 48 people that were interested and scheduled a call to like talk details, right? That's fantastic in 2 months, right? And that's basically organic. Well, not basically, it is organic because it was me in there messaging, having conversations with people, building relationships. Good business is based on the relationships that we build, right? And a lot of times we lose that when we get to social media because it's not intimate, right? It's not one to one. It's like you and whoever's on the other side of the screen, right? This faceless person on the other side of the screen. But there's an ability to still build a relationship with the people digitally, right? You just have to apply the same principles that you would in person. Like when we do outreach, we do not sell right away. If you've watched my episode with Debbie Weems, she's a LinkedIn specialist. I believe she was on episode four or five. So definitely go back and watch that if you haven't yet. But, being sold out of the gate is a turnoff. Again, if you were to like walk into a store and the person immediately like approaches you like, oh, what are you, would you like option A, B, or C? Like, no, like, give me a chance to like walk around and look and get a feel, right? If you meet somebody at a networking event, you're going to walk up to them and be like, oh, I sell, social media websites and, outreach. Like, no, like, I'm going to have a conversation with the person and actually like get a feel for who they are and let them get a feel for who I am before you go in for the sell. You have to treat your digital platforms like that. Not every post should be buy from me. Not every content or not every message should be buy from me. And definitely don't lead with that. Some of our outreach is as simple as like, hey, how are things going in your end? Or like, hey, we've been connected for a while. Would love to connect and learn more about you or get a chance to catch up, right? It all leads to natural conversations. You can even like look at someone's profile and see where they live and talk about some natural thing going on with here, right? Like Colorado, it's been pretty good for the last week or two, but then there was a lot of fires going on because of the dryness and the weather. So there was a lot of fires happening like a couple weeks ago. So if you're trying to get someone's attention in Colorado, they live in the area where there's fires, but like, hey, I hope you're not anywhere near, where all these fires are going. Like, hope you and your family are safe, whatever. And there's your in to a conversation. The other thing that I would say is there's so many people that are so scared of the word sales. Um, and if you focus on sales as in like, hey, I need to get this many numbers and this many deals and all that stuff, yeah, it could be intimidating. I always view it as just having a conversation with the person. The more that I learn about somebody, the more I learn about what it is that they need, the easier it is for me to present whatever solutions that I have to offer. And if I don't have any solutions to offer, then guess what? There's nothing to offer. And we just have a great conversation, right? Not everyone will say yes to what it is that you're buying, what it is that you're selling. Not everyone is prepared for that. Not everyone is like in the moment ready to buy. You just focus on having a conversation and getting a chance to know the person, right? In the cell phone industry, right, back in the day when you had to do like the roaming stuff, I would like talk to somebody and I would find out like, hey, do you travel? Where's your family live? Who are you going to be using the phone to like talk to, right? And then like as I was able to like talk to these people and get that information, then all of a sudden, guess what? Instead of me being like, oh, you should buy a car charger for $29.99, you know what? I would like put it on there and be like, hey, on those road trips, like when you're going to go visit your daughter Christine in like New York, you're going to need a car charger to keep that phone charged. How easy of a sale is it that? Because now I have the data, now I have the information that I can relay that to, versus like blindly offering something that I have no idea if they're going to use or not, right? And so that's part of where like the intimidation comes from sales. The other one is just having a conversation with somebody. Worst case scenario, they tell you they're not interested. And guess what? Being in business for 8 years, I will tell you, it's better not to do business with people that you have to force to do business with you, right? I would much rather work with people that understand the value that I bring, that are aligned in like the thoughts and like the philosophies that I have, and that they trust me, right? If there's no trust there, or if there's any kind of conflict there, it's not, that's not something that I want to do. That's not why I went into business for, right? I did not go into business to be stressed out because me and a client are not getting along. So, if the people that immediately like shut you down, they may not be a good fit for you. Guess what? There are like billions of people in the world. You will find someone else. It doesn't, it doesn't equate to the value of like what it is that you're selling. If the first person or, a group of people or whatever that you talk to. Also, sometimes taking feedback from family is not great. It's so interesting how it's easier for people to purchase from um, businesses and local businesses that they don't know versus like sometimes family. So, not all family is going to believe and understand what your product is doing. So just be aware of that. Like you have to speak to the people that actually can use what you're selling, the people that will benefit from it, and don't just aim for, the numbers and like kind of, ticking off like the list of like how many things that you can do. Really focus on providing value at the end of the day. All of that was just to say, focus on providing value. And the value that you bring will attract the right people. You really need to like understand, how other people view what you do in your business and like put yourself out there. The other thing I'll say too, I'm just like watching the time, so I'm kind of like letting my thoughts trail here. But I can't believe I talked about myself for an hour and what I do. Um, so the last thing I will say is don't, no, I want to start with the negative. Focus on who you are as a business owner and who your ideal people you want to work with, right? Like, so if money wasn't an object and you had to turn away business, who are the ones that you would absolutely want to do business with? And focus on what they would benefit and how they view your information, and like focus your messaging on that. One of the easiest ways for someone to align with you, um, that is like-minded or like similar to the interests that you want to attract, right, is to share a little bit more about yourself. I know video is not easy. Listen, it took me a year, um, yeah, a year to be comfortable in front of the camera, and even doing this podcast today, I was just like doing anything and everything but starting to go live and talking to myself on the screen. Uh, but I did it, and I'm here. But it's not easy, and you can come up with all the different ways not to do it. But the more that you could put yourself out there, right? Like you get a chance to hear who I am, like how I think, what my philosophies are, all of that. A little bit of my humor, hopefully. And but you wouldn't really get a chance to capture that if I wasn't doing like video. So try to do a video, put yourself out there. If you're really not comfortable with doing video, don't let that stop you from putting up content. You can do pictures, you can, do like a voiceover, you can like film a pretty scene while you're talking about whatever it is that you're doing. You could be actively working and doing things. I have a video on my YouTube channel where I kind of like show an example of like if you're not comfortable staring at yourself on camera, but you have to be on camera, like how you can kind of keep yourself busy while you're talking about whatever it is that you want to talk about, whatever it is that you want to promote, right? If you're a yacht captain, you could be working on the boat and have someone film you or prop your phone up and you can talk about whatever your services are. If you're in accounting and you're not comfortable being on camera, you could be taking care of your horses and like working in the barn while being recorded and like just talking about different tips and strategies and stuff. So just think outside the box. It doesn't have to be you sitting like this talking the whole time, because yes, that is a little unnerving. um, just you can be walking, you can have someone next to you like asking you questions, or again, you can just have like show a picture of something, or like share the video on the other side where you're, talking about whatever it is you're talking about, so they at least like hear your voice. So there's a ton of different ideas. If you feel stuck, message me. I can give you some ideas. I love a good brainstorming session. Keeps me creative, and it'll help you. So reach out, and I can help you with any kind of tips. Um, okay, so I did go over now. I'm like, try not to talk too much, but there's so much I want to say. So I will end with this. I have been in the most, what's the word? Biggest evolution of myself these last 8 years. I've learned so much about myself, about other people, about the way the world works and turns and all of the things. And one of the things that I love the most is, the freedom to do what I love to do, and the freedom to, take a couple hours in the afternoon to go rescue a dog and then work late at night to make up for the hours, right? That flexibility of the schedule. But one of the things that I love the most is the amazing people that I meet on a daily basis. The depth of conversation that I have had with other business owners, and the people that I've really gotten a chance to get to know, these last few years that I've met through networking. My friendships are so special to me, and the people that support me, I'm very, very, very grateful. All my clients, I'm very, very, very grateful. And I will say, no matter what you do in life, no matter where you are in life, find something or bring forward what it is that you truly love to do. because everything will work out. I would have never guessed that I would have been in this business for the last 8 years when my crazy ideas 8 years ago, right, of being a shopping assistant. I would have never guessed though what it has evolved into. And that has been, I guess a total evolution from the people that I've met and the things that I've learned and everything in between. But because I'm doing what I love, I'm more open to learning about new things and exploring new places. And I love being on the road, and this business allows me to work from anywhere as long as I get good Wi-Fi signal. Um, so I've seen some incredible places, and um, I don't know. We all spend so much time chasing and hustling and the grind and all of that. That was kind of like put into our brains um, years ago, and in some cases still are. But a really good friend of mine, Joanne Garraway, I did a lot of her workshops in the last few years, and she always talks about ease and flow. The happier that you are in what you do in your day to day, like the more ease and flow you have in your daily life, in all aspects of your life, in your business too. It shouldn't be a struggle. I mean, it is sometimes, right? We all have to, like I said, pay the bills, but at least you enjoy the chase. You don't want to do something where, you're unhappy and you just don't feel fulfilled. It's just, life is too short, absolutely too short to not do what it is that you love and then make time for the people that you love and the things that you love. So, getting a little intimate here. Anyway, um, I could keep talking for days apparently. See, 8 years ago, I would have never gone in front of the camera. Now I'm talking for over an hour. Thank you guys so much for joining me. If you have any questions or know anyone in Colorado that you want to feature on the podcast, let me know. Next week, I've got a great local contractor that I'm going to feature, Grant, with Copsa. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it right, construction. Um, if you haven't watched the previous episodes, I've had some fabulous guests and some great conversations. And I hope you guys are just having an amazing day. And again, do what you love, do what makes your soul shine. And thanks for joining me. And we'll see you guys in the next episode. Have a fabulous weekend.